This question is asking about algae growth increasing in polluted lakes. So they are hoping that you remember that an algae bloom is caused by having too much nitrogen, potassium, and primarily phosphorus into your water sources. So where does that come from? Fertilizing all the fields in your farms. People fertilizing their lawns, washing their cars in the driveway, which is soap. And pollution from your urban runoff, so that's your cities, wastewater treatment plants, okay, and those fertilizer-like chemicals and soap, right? So people say, let's buy phosphate-free shampoo, that's better for the environment, because you think, oh, well, we're fertilizing the algae, that's great, let's do that. Those are photosynthetic creatures. They're going to create oxygen, and they do, but they create that yucky green scum on a lake or at the beginning at the ocean. And what the problem is not the live algae so much, it's the dead ones. So as they die and decompose, they rot and they actually use up more oxygen in the lake. And also some algae produce toxins. Okay, so we don't like algae is the point of the story here. So what are the chemicals responsible for that? Okay, and if you'll remember our chemicals in fertilizer are NPK, so there's 2510 here. It's showing how much nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium there is. Okay, so you're looking for words that have nitrogen, nitrates, phosphorus, phosphates. Okay, oxygen, no, it doesn't matter. Okay, these two are just regular oxygen and carbon dioxide, right? So you're looking for the bottom one, D. In 27, that'd be great if they had a picture, but they just put a description. So a whooping crane died along the shore of a lake. And how do we know what killed it? Because it had a lot of pesticides in its tissue. Right? So again, from our farming picture, we need to spray a lot of chemicals all over our plants to make sure the bugs don't eat the plants that we want to eat. Okay? Especially things like fruit, right? Strawberries and blueberries and peaches, they're going to need a lot of pesticides sprayed on them because they are very thin and it's very easy for creatures to, thin-skinned, they're very easy for creatures to eat them. Okay, so a little bit of that chemical, not a big deal. Okay, but it's going to build up in the water from runoff, and that gets absorbed in the tissues of the base level consumers or producers. Okay, then they're eaten by our primary consumers, secondary consumers, and our whooping crane is going to be higher on the food chain, right? It's going to be eating the bigger fish in that lake that's been examined here. Okay, so the other fish species, they're assuming that you know that a whooping crane eats a fish, right? And that's a bird. So if you don't know what a whooping crane is, that's a good question on a test, right? What is that? And I'll tell you, oh, it's a bird. Okay, and they're found to have moderate levels of pesticide in their tissues. Okay, so the fish has medium amounts of those toxins. Okay, the bird had the high levels of pesticides. Okay, so we can assume that these guys had the lower levels. So, how come there's such a high concentration of pesticides in that bird? Is it because their skin absorbed the pesticide? Well, maybe. Okay, but it's more likely it ate it, right? The whooping crane swam in contaminated lake water. Again, maybe. Okay, but let's look at the next one. They fed on pesticide-treated grass near the lake. That could work. Okay, but they don't really eat grass. Okay, they tend to eat fish. So their primary food source was fish from the lake that had pesticides. And your clue in here is because they're talking about the fish. Okay, they didn't say anything about grass or contaminated lake water. Okay, they're talking about how the fish have the pesticides. Okay, so those are your clues to get 27D. 28 has to do with a dump, okay, a landfill. So you want to make sure that there's a liner so that the leachate, Leachate, the leachate, okay, from leaching, I call it garbage juice, like when you lift up your organic bag, okay, and there's that gross drippiness. Okay, that happens in your dump. So in design X, we have your big pile of garbage. Okay, you've got gravel, which is relatively big rocks. You have clay, okay, like what you use in art class to make pots and whatnot. And you have a layer of sand and soil. Okay, so soil is the same on both pictures. The solid waste is the same. Okay, in this diagram, you have compacted sand, which is better than nothing. Okay, and sand and gravel, which are going to help with reducing how many pollutants are percolating into the soil here. Okay, and potentially into groundwater. There might be groundwater under here. That's why we care usually. Okay, so we don't want garbage juice in our water. And so clay is the key piece that you want in your design. Okay, so design X is the better one. Should be selected as the design for the new landfill because the clay layer prevents the chemical leaching. Okay, so your answer there would have been B. Okay, let's finish this one off in the next video.